Covered or just compliant? What Queensland businesses get wrong about insurance? Hi everyone and welcome to Queensland Business Stories, brought to you by connectedplatforms.com.au. IT done right, done better. Today, welcome Jack Bailey, the founder and director of Elevate Insurance Broking, a Brisbane-based insurance broking business he built with a singular goal to give Australian businesses a genuinely better insurance experience. Look, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you going? We're really glad to have you here to share your story because it's an interesting one. How are you going today, Jack?
Yeah, it's great. That was a great introduction. Thanks, Chris. And you're going well. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad at all. Look, insurance, a lot of people watching this will be going, couldn't be bothered, couldn't be interested, what dragged you to that industry? Is it something that you've always found an interest in? Is it what made you want to start your own business in that sort of area? Because it's an important area, but like I say, one that a lot of people go,
It's definitely not the first pick, when you're in high school and think, I'm going to do insurance broking. No, I didn't start there. I went to university to do paramedicine, and I found out that the chance of getting a job after that was about 80% if you moved overseas, about 20% if you stayed locally. So as a result of that, I thought, okay, well, time to drop out. Got a job as a bookkeeper, servicing insurance brokers, working for my old footy coach. And I swore I'd never do insurance broking because my old man's in it. But then I was doing books for these firms, and it actually looked all right and pretty interesting. So that's what made me move to Brisbane from Port Macquarie and get a job in insurance.
And obviously you've had a lot of success there, sort of now building out that business. Has it turned out that there's been more than what you would have thought there of interest, that when you start speaking to people, it's actually a lot more beneath the surface that people don't understand?
Yeah, absolutely. When I started in insurance, so I started in domestic insurance. So it started with home, landlords, cars. And at the time I thought that was pretty interesting. And over time, started doing business insurance and learning about people's businesses is what made the job interesting.
Yep.
Insurance itself is boring, but I get to work with businesses in so many different industries and getting to understand what drives them, what motivates them, how their businesses work, how they make money. That's what I find interesting about my job.
Absolutely. And yeah, I feel we've bagged out insurance enough there. But for me, I think a lot of Queensland business owners, if they're being really honest with themselves, they don't really understand what they're covered for. I think a lot of people do treat it as a bit of a peripheral thing. Like they know they need insurance, but then they don't really know. They go, well, I've got some for this, I've got some for that. It's sort of the things that pop into their mind maybe. How do you see that? Is it more of a problem than people think? Are there consequences that you've seen? How do you approach that idea of business owners that really just don't understand?
Yeah, sure. So if a business wanted to be covered against every risk that you can transfer to an insurance policy, they would all have 20 different policies. And if you put it through ChatGPT, what insurance do I need for my business? It'll tell you this big list of things. And a lot of people don't take all that, obviously. I think more often than not, people take less cover than they need. So our job as an insurance advisor and broker is to cut through the noise, talk realistically about what your business needs at its current stage, and provide you a better idea of what you're covering against and what the cost of that cover is. That's a big part of our job.
Because it is that bit of not knowing. I mean, have you had stories where people thought they were covered for certain things that ultimately they weren't, and some lessons there? Because I feel that's the one myself that worries me a little bit, that I don't actually know what I don't know. And some of the things that I think an expert like you would say, well, obviously you would need this insurance, and I haven't even really heard of that. Is that a bit of a common occurrence?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I've seen it plenty of times. It's usually this comes up when a new customer approaches us, and they're approaching us because they bought their cover online and they lodged a claim, what they thought was claim, and that it didn't pay out, and that they've faced a financial consequence because of that. Like a good example is a builder that just had a public liability policy and a contract works policy. They provided some advice. They designed a home and built it, and as a result of a poor design, there was a financial loss suffered by the person they built the home for. That claim was not covered by his public liability. Had we have had a 5-minute conversation and he told me that he designed these buildings as well as built them, we'd be talking about design and construct insurance, which would have covered him in that circumstance. So that's a big part of our role, is having these conversations, figuring out what you actually do, and then translating that to an insurance policy that responds.
And the temptation is always there. I mean, so many things these days that you go online because you think you can do it yourself, you think you can do it cheaper. And you mentioned ChatGPT before. It's interesting to me, and I want to talk about AI a little bit more shortly, but this idea that we probably do feel we can be doctors from home or insurance brokers from home ourselves, but there is nuance there that needs to be understood, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. And as you know, with AI, like I said before, the big block of text, this is what you need. It sounds very right. It's not always right.
It can be very convincing that you sort of covered.
Saying it confidently, you must be right.
Because is there even, I imagine there's even levels there when you talk about policies, different insurers covering different things, excluding different things. I mean, I know just personally, I experienced that with health insurance, where you go, all policies are not the same. We have these even national standards identifying that they should be pretty similar, but they're not. They're quite different.
Yeah, 100%. And when you're comparing policies yourself, there's the policy wording itself on a business package can be anywhere from 50 to 110 pages. And I don't know many people that genuinely read every one of those pages for all of the policies they're comparing. Business owners aren't going to sit there in their spare time and go through all of that. It's my job to understand the differences between them and know that there's a water damage exclusion there, for argument's sake. Well, there's an exclusion that relates directly to your industry on page 50 of the PDS. That's my job to understand and provide recommendations on that basis. Where if you're a business owner doing this in your spare time at 7 o'clock at night after working a full day, you may not pick it up.
You could certainly miss some of that nuance. And you work with a wide range of industries. I know you were saying to me before, trades, commercial property, they're probably your specialties. Do you find that there are challenges? And I know there'll be some people watching this who, they're a tradie that is really looking, or let's say they're already working for someone else, but they're looking at branching out into their own business and taking on more of that responsibility as a sole trader or doing any of it themselves. It can be a bit daunting and overwhelming. Do you find that they tend to get, particularly people at that stage of their career or that stage of their business growth, tend to make some common mistakes?
Yes, absolutely. So the perfect example of finding out that you don't have the right cover that we see way too often is someone insuring their car, like their work ute, as a tradie, and they've got 10, 15 grand worth of tools in the back of it that they keep locked up at night. That car gets broken into or tools are stolen. The tools aren't covered under the commercial motor policy in most cases. So it's usually not, like if they haven't been with a broker, usually they find out their tools aren't covered when they try to lodge a claim for 10 grand and get knocked back and said, there's a $500 benefit under the wording, but you've got a $1,000 excess. So, there's nothing, you've got no cover. When you could have paid $500 a year to get that covered.
So, there will be pitfalls, and it would be worthwhile, particularly if you were a new person sort of starting, you've got your trade and you're looking at extending into more of a business structure, something that it really probably should be right up there in the list of things that you do.
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, if new trades business, public liability is the most important thing. That's, you're not going to get on job sites if you don't have it. And it's got, usually a $20 million limit for personal injury or property damage to third parties. that we talk about, making sure that your work ute or van or truck or whatever is correctly insured, your tools, and then also your personal risk in injury and things like that.
Yeah, there's more to it than what people will be familiar with before entering that business realm, I suppose. But I'd like to pivot a little bit to talk about cyber insurance, because we've got there's a lot going on when you talk about tech and the impact of that on businesses. I know businesses for a long time, this isn't new, but we've got AI as well, and I do want to dig a little bit more into the AI angle of all this. But there's more tech involvement in businesses than there has ever been before. I was particularly interested in some of this talk around mandatory ransomware reporting and requirements there that were necessary for larger businesses in Queensland. You've got angles there that I think will be foreign to a lot of people. I know before this interview, I wasn't really thinking along any of those lines, but it will impact other businesses that I'm attached to. Talk to us a little bit about that and some of the issues, probably for more of the medium enterprises, I suppose.
Yeah, sure. So the second the government introduces anything like mandatory reporting or anything like that, it adds an extra pressure to your business. The consequences of getting it wrong are high, as are most things relating to the government. So from an insurance angle, at least, which is most of what I can talk to, like cyber insurance is quite it's been taken up by more businesses because there's a lot of exposure. If your business is hacked, like ransomware sort of event, it can put a lot of people out of business. Some insurers will provide reports, particularly out of states where there's chances of being shut down after or closing your business after a cyber incident. Something like 30% for small to medium enterprises.
Wow.
So, you could, for a small business, you could pay a couple $100 a year to prevent that from happening by taking your cyber insurance policy. And cyber insurance now is becoming a far more easy product to deal with. For any business owners listening, you might still be sent out a 10-page report, like a 10-page proposal form to fill in. That's got so many technical questions that you need to be in IT to understand. That's not a thing. That's not so much a thing anymore. Insurers are implementing AI, which then scans all of your data in the background, provides a report based on your risk profile, tells you about all your vulnerabilities that they know of, asks you to fix it, and they proactively manage it in the background now and notify you and your IT team of incidents. So proactive insurance is now becoming more of a thing for cyber than reactive insurance.
And do you, what does that even look like in this modern world? I know when we talk about ransomware, people might have a bit of an idea of that, but have you seen or read of any sort of cases where that has impacted people potentially, hopefully, not hopefully, but ideally locally? Have you seen any instances of that? Because I know there's been big scale overseas ones you've heard of, shutting down rail networks, for example, or government departments, and just huge implications. But you're sort of saying there that the impact is huge for small to medium, and particularly, I don't know that that's something that's really front and centre on Queensland business owners' minds. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I've had cyber claims to local businesses. So in the last 3 years, I've had 4 cyber claims being lodged for local businesses. 3 of them were on the smaller end. They were like payment fraud type of things. So invoices that had been intercepted and sent on with different bank details. That payment's been made. It's been sent to the wrong bank account. It's the company that supposedly sent the invoice follows up for payment 2 weeks later, and it's the money's long gone. It's gone for someone else. So there's been claims varying from the smallest of those was $10,000, and then the largest was $50,000. But the cyber insurance policy paid for both of those. All of those. The largest that I've seen was a true ransomware incident, and it was for. I won't be that specific because we're in Brisbane, and don't want to identify anyone, but it was in the property industry, and this business lost full access to their system for a period of 3 months, and their data was damaged as a result of this ransomware incident. They unfortunately did not take a recommendation to increase their sum insured on their cyber over a period of years, and I think their loss was about $3 million. and they only had 500,000 worth of cover. So that was the business interruption portion of it. They also had to pay a ransom in the end. So that was years ago now, but it does really happen to Queensland businesses.
Yeah, we're not isolated in a global world where everything's interconnected.
That's right.
So with the AI angle as well, I know, we can talk about risks associated with that, and not necessarily. I would argue probably a lot of the insurance hasn't kept up. How can anyone keep up? But there won't be necessarily policies that can protect you against AI. But the other side of it, you mentioned before, some real benefits coming to the industry from AI being able to. I mean, the argument for health insurance for a long time has been that better data, better AI tools would be able to reduce significantly premiums for people who are healthy and demonstrating healthy lifestyle habits or whatever it might be, to make it a little bit more customized. Is there similar things going on more broadly for business insurance in that regard?
Not necessarily. Not so much for business insurance. AI is becoming a risk in some ways in the insurance side of things. It's mostly for professional industries where they're providing advice. Some businesses, particularly junior staff, are becoming too reliant on AI. Don't fully understand the implications of their advice, copy and pasting something from ChatGPT or Gemini, sending it onto a customer that then uses that advice and suffers a financial loss. That's the negative implication of it. There are, like Discover, for argument's sake, is now implementing AI in their quoting process, and I haven't seen how it works yet. To be honest, not sure if it's even been released or being released soon. But it is impacting general insurance broadly. There is a business in Spain that started using AI, like an AI brokerage sort of thing, and the implications on insurance broking businesses has been high after that. So the publicly listed ones lost a significant amount of their share value after it was released, because it seemed to be doing so well. But it's only been going for a couple of months, so it's tough to say for sure.
Yeah, it'd be. So I think it'd be a space to watch in all industries. I mean, not isolated to insurance, but it's one that has caught my attention with insurance, because I feel like that could evolve quite significantly over the next few years.
Yes.
A different angle I want to ask you about Queensland specifically, right? Like we live in a pretty unique insurance market, I would imagine. We've got natural disasters, we've got construction boom, we've got mining happening, we've got regional businesses. Is Queensland different to everywhere else? What does it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. The further north you go, the worse the insurance implications are for you. But Southeast Queensland, even insurance for things like home insurance and business property insurance is significantly higher than in other states. There's outliers for sure, like in rural Victoria and stuff like that are paying a fortune. Tasmania, parts of New South Wales as well, particularly because of their high taxes on insurance. But Southeast Queensland, I'd say, it's sort of leveled out recently. So property insurance has actually gone backwards a little bit, which it very, very rarely happens. So it'll be backwards this year, then it'll be up for the next 5 years. That's just unfortunately how the insurance cycle seems to work. But we do up here in business like for commercial property in particular, we see higher excesses in like cyclones, where you're not going to see that in Victoria.
Yeah, right. And do you think that sort of step back a little bit that happened, is that just because we've had a pretty good run? I mean, we haven't really we had a spate of natural disasters, it seemed, and then we've had pretty good times for the last little while. Is that reflecting in those prices? Is that how you're seeing it, or?
That's right, and there's also because there's been a bit of profit of recent. There's also been new entrants to the market. So new insurers that are new underwriting agents that are they come in 30% below what the existing insurer is offering, and then the existing insurer has to either come down, adjust their rates, or lose some business. So so that's generally how the market cycle works. It starts with a bit of profit being made, competition goes a bit too hard, they start losing money, prices go up, it starts again. So yeah, I won't bore people with the insurance market cycle. I feel like listeners switching off, but yeah.
So talk us through a little bit about the brokerage itself and what that process looks like for a new client coming in, because I think people are probably pretty familiar with mortgage brokers. They get that they would generally go to a mortgage broker. Probably more people go to a mortgage broker than actually sit down and try and do it themselves, because they go, well, I know that's complicated. When it comes to insurance, they probably don't. But a lot of that, I think, stems from just a lack of understanding of what that process even looks like. So I'd love for you to sort of step us through what it looks like for you with your clients, and how that first meeting goes. Maybe taking a little bit of the mystery and a little bit of the fear out for a number of people who are going, well, I probably need some help with this, but I'm not really confident enough to go and ask.
Yeah, sure. So in business insurance, a lot more people use an insurance broker than a direct insurer. But things like home insurance and stuff like that, that's mostly done direct with an insurer now. But from a business owner's perspective, how a first meeting usually goes, it's either on the phone, in person, over a coffee, at their premises even. Just depends on how soon they need something, really. And yeah, it's usually a 10 to 15 minute chat about their business, telling me what they do, the types of business or customers or businesses that they service, a bit about their business as far as turnover and staff numbers, and if they use contractors, and what their sums and shorts need to be. And then from there, I can go off, provide recommendations on the type of cover they need, and then arrange quotes for those cover. So that's how it starts. A bit of a misconception or thing that confuses some people is we don't charge anything for the initial meeting. So when we come out, we go through everything. We provide advice on the cover you need. We don't charge anything. We get paid when we place your cover, and that's only after you accept it. All our fees and commission paid by the insurer are included in our quotes. So it's completely obligation free. You don't need to take the cover. If you actually provide you a quote and you think that's too expensive, that's fine. You don't need to take the cover.
And I think that is important for a lot of people. And even though, like you sort of highlighted, a lot of businesses do have they do use brokers, but I'm probably thinking more of the little guy, right? Like the tradie, particularly type of business that's starting out, and they go, I'm not really confident in that sort of business to business relationship. I think what you've just described there, that the pressure's not there, it's just a conversation, will be reassuring for a lot of people. And it ties in very nicely with your sort of very specific service philosophy, because you really are focused on the people first and wanting to provide a different type of experience for people entering that space. So I'm curious to know what you think your business looks like in the next 5 years. What does that actually look like? How do you deliver more of that sort of individualized, removing a little bit of the stress from the environment, insurance services?
Yeah, sure. So the priority for us, and a lot of businesses will say this, but the priority is customer first. Everything comes after that. Happy customer means our business gets to continue to grow and be successful. So over the next 5 years, I plan on putting some more staff on. A big focus in my business that I think is lacking in the industry, that I think we can improve upon delivery, is brokers that also do their own claims. So if I set up a policy for you, I'm the person you call claim time. I'm the one that handles it start to finish. You deal with one person, you're not tossed around departments and stuff like that, which is common with direct insurers and some of the larger firms out there. But that's a big service philosophy of mine, is to have one person as your contact for all insurance matters.
Do you think the industry itself will be quite different in 5 years' time with the AI thing and all of it? Yeah,
I think it will be. I think AI will definitely take it, as far as if I'm looking at it from my day to day. AI will take a lot of the basic processing type parts out of my role. Things like just processing the policy on our online on our systems, Filing, things like that could be all automated. Claim follow-ups. There's a lot that will mean that I could spend more time speaking with the customer or getting them the best outcome. It's going to be more customer facing, I think, because AI is going to be there, but AI is not going to replace the person and relationships and what we already deliver.
So, for a Queensland business owner who's listening right now, sort of wrap this up. They've never really interrogated their insurance. They don't really, they've taken something from this conversation because they're going, well, I probably do need to be thinking a little bit more about that. What's the one thing you'd want them to do or walk away with today? What's the angle? What's the nudge that you would be giving?
Well, it's completely free to shop around. If you haven't had a look at your insurance properly in a couple of years, have a chat to a broker. It's not going to cost you anything up front. The chance of them getting you a better outcome is pretty high at the moment because insurance is softening up here in Queensland in particular. So that would be my takeaway.
So, and probably the same advice then if they have got their insurance under control, it's still worth the conversation because, as you said, the market's changing. So you might still have some dollars to be saved.
Yeah, that's right. In Queensland in particular right now. So,
look, and if people want to contact you directly, what's the best way to get in touch?
Just my mobile number is easiest 0402 216 694. It's just me in the business. So I'll happily help anyone.
And that tells you something there too. You're getting directly onto Jack. You get to speak directly, and that was a big point that you're making. And I think people will find that really valuable. Look, really appreciate you coming and speaking to us today because there was a lot there that is a topic that, as I said at the start, you had a bit of a joke around on insurance. No one wants to talk about insurance, but at the end of the day, it is important, and it probably is consistent with our theme that ultimately people are important here. You need someone, you need a guy, right? Like you need someone you can reach out to, have a conversation with that's beyond just sort of trying to navigate it with ChatGPT. So I think that's really valuable. So thank you for your time on that.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. Look, if you have a Queensland business story that our audience will be interested in, reach out. You can contact us at connectedplatforms.com.au. We'd love to hear from you. Also, we highly value any feedback on what you like or don't. So let us know that as well. And if you really love the content, please consider giving us a Google review because it makes a huge difference to our team. So we'll be back again next week with a brand new Queensland business story. Thanks everyone for watching, and let's stay connected.